But I believe that by overwhelming majority, you and I, in the long run, and if it be necessary, you and I will act together to protect, to defend, by every means at our command.
So I recently made a video titled Disciples of Lucifer, where I talked about the oculus, the owl and the Moloch and our eyes. Now this video is containing a very old video I forgot I made and highlighting a wow point. Now this is the UN meditation room, and what you gotta remember is this was made by Dag Hammarskjöld. He's the former Secretary General of the United Nations, and he personally planned and supervised every detail of this meditation room. He renamed it a room of quiet. Now, do you remember from the video it was talking about owls? Owls fly silently. So is that any hint to what's coming up? And this blew me away because I just forgot about it, and I wish he included it in that video. So what you're going to focus on is the painting, which was done by Bo Beskow on the left, and there's the image of it in the room of quiet, the meditation room, which is on the ground floor of the UN. Now the channel Kingdom in Context did something with that painting many years ago, and he included it in the original video, and here it is. Let's see if you can spot what it becomes. So hopefully you all saw what we saw, that it was an owl when that picture by Bo Beskow was mirrored in the quiet room, or a room of quiet. It resembles Moloch, the owl. Can't be any coincidence, can it? So remember, oculus, broken down by myself in my old video not long ago, was the world belongs to us. They're making a statement. They're saying they're watching all the secrets, the light, the information, they control it, and the world belongs to us. This was at the UN headquarters in the meditation room on the ground floor, and it's a slam dunk owl. Now, using that example that Kingdom in Context did with the mirroring of the painting, I saw this outside the headquarters. It's called the Secretariat entrance, the plaza, and I saw this and I went, wow. You telling me this is too much of a coincidence that this statue is outside and that is inside? So as you can see, I did the same mirroring type of thing, not in the video but in the picture, and to show you, there is the original on the left and I mirrored that on the right, and what do you get? To me, again, that is another owl, another oculus, another statement saying the world belongs to us. And for me, that is a slam dunk. Why have two owls or two half of an owl inside and outside? They are showing you, they're hiding in plain sight, and it's just wow. Right, back to this, because I just couldn't help not include this. Now we're looking at the room of quiet. We know it's a picture of an owl now, and then you have the strange weird granite or type of stone altar that is. I mean, it's just a coincidence that the altar weighs 6.5 tons. A hidden 11, a doorway. The altar is a doorway. Nothing in that. Anyway, can you remember back from a few videos ago, and I showed you Giuseppe Porta del Tor Salviati picture of the presentation of Jesus at the temple. Now, if you remember that, it had a temple and it had Jesus being basically offered to a priest or whatever, but the priest resembled Moloch, and I can't help but see the similarities to this, and I'll put the picture in now so you can actually see it. Tell me I'm not I'm seeing things, because I can see the likeness, the owl over an altar, which you can see in the picture now, and it is like an offering, a ritual, and the same thing is happening in this temple. You have the light, the sun of being Jesus being offered at the temple at the altar to Moloch, to the owl. Hopefully you guys can see that and it's just not me going cuckoo. So hopefully you can see that. So remember my Disciples of Lucifer video where Lucifer, the owl, the oculus, the light, the eyes, everything's connected. Obviously the etymology of Lucifer means light, looks, etc. Now, do you believe in coincidences? People keep telling me there's no such thing. Well, here's some maybe. It said the custodian of the United Nations Meditation Room is a Lucis Trust, formerly known as Lucifer Publishing Company. It's a coincidence. Anyway, here's a few of the logos that they like to use, and you can see the Lucis does remind you of the Lucifer sigil. So let's carry on. They used to reside at 666 United Nations Plaza. Now I believe they've moved, it's 866 Suite 482. But hey, coincidence. So the dimensions of the room are 108 by 78 inches. Let's change that to feet for most of us. So it's 9 feet by 6 feet 6. Turn the 9, you get 666. Now we know 666 is not the Lucifer's number, it's human, it's carbon and all that, but hey, they believe in it, so that's why they are doing it, and these are just coincidences. So it reminded me of this in my old video, and it's by J.W. McKay, and it's talking about Hillel Ben Shira, which is obviously the mistranslation. And it says, how you have fallen from the heavens, Hillel Ben Shira. You have been cut down to the ground, O weakling above the nations, United Nations. It was you who said in your heart, I shall ascend the heavens above the stars of hell. I shall raise high my throne, and I shall sit on the Mount of Assembly. United Nations Assembly. And it's on an altar, and I'll show you that in a sec once I've read this out. And if you see the bit where it says I shall ascend the heavens above the stars of hell, the United Nations, in cooperating with the World Bank, have a stolen asset recovery assistance known as STAR. Just a coincidence. So it says, I shall sit on the mount of the assembly on the slopes of Saffron. I shall ascend above the heights of the clouds. I shall make myself like Elyon, but you have been brought down to Sheol, to the recess of the pit. So if you look at the United Nations Assembly, you can see quite see that they have a throne and an altar in front of the assembly. I just found that was a little bit intriguing. Maybe I'm stretching, but hey, I'm making a video, right? So Lucifer, yeah, white light, but also remember what colour is associated with etymology of white is blue. What colour is the United Nations logo? Oh yes, well, blue and white. No coincidences there, guys. So I want to do a little bit of a history on the site. Not much, I'm not going to go into it in depth, just enough to give you a little flavour of the situation. So this is the land that the UN is actually built on today. So let's go back a little bit further. Now in 1945 there was a conference establishing the modern day United Nations, which took place in San Francisco. A committee was set up to find the best spot for what would essentially become the world's capital. The world's capital. So they're stating in Time magazine that they were looking for the world's capital. A look back into the Times coverage of that period shows that the competition to host the UN was wide open. A lot of places like Boston, Philadelphia, all these places were going for it. Now New York, where the UN would be, they didn't want it there because it might be overshadowed by Wall Street, etc. That's what Time magazine say. Put it, but was no good, so that wasn't a favourite. So what changed? Well, Nelson Rockefeller and the Rockefellers changed, and I'll go into that in a minute. So obviously the site that they were actually built on was chosen, and this is just the cornerstone, you know, the inaugural cornerstone in five languages, Roman numerals, etc. Basically the cornerstone of the UN was laid or attended by Truman, Freemason obviously, and we know they're a lot connected to that. So let's get on to it. So what happened was the UN was temporarily at this place, the Bronx campus. The Bronx campus of Hunter College was the site of the United Nations headquarters from March to June 1946 in the gym. A quick moving deal arranged by Nelson Rockefeller put the UN in Manhattan, overlooking the East River. So as he stated in writing, Nelson Rockefeller and obviously his father JD sorted this out. Now Nelson Rockefeller, which I didn't know, later on in his life the Vice President of the United States, which I did not know that. So when people talk about ley lines and the energy from abattoirs, which are slaughterhouses, they talk about this many times in the community. What is intriguing and interesting is the UN's headquarters was built on abattoir or slaughterhouses, and you can see an old image now of these slaughterhouses, and I'll just put an image of the abattoir next, and you can see that. Now what's got me is the major sites at that location were a New York Veal and Mutton Company, the United Dressed Beef Company, as you can see from these advertisements, and Schwarzschild and Sulzberger and Co. So these were all on the site that we now know as the United Nations headquarters. So obviously it was getting built, and you can see some images of it getting built. But what's intriguing is the person who owned the land originally was named Mr. Zeckendorf. He wanted to build, and I quote, he wanted to call it X City. This X is getting about lately, isn't it? So he wanted to call it X City, and here's some of the artist's illustrations of what it could have looked like on that site. But for whatever happened, the Rockefellers intervened and it sold. Rockefeller bought it off Zeckendorf for 8.5 million. So you're thinking, what would he do with the 8.5 million now? Yep, you're thinking, yeah, he sold it to United Nations. Nope, he gave it to them for free. He gave it to them, or the local council, whatever you want to call it, then went to United Nations and said, listen, this site's free. Do you want to build a United Nations headquarters on that? So you got it. The land was free, given to them by Rockefeller. Enough said. So what's intriguing me about obviously the building now, it does resemble the 2001 Space Odyssey, the monolith. And I put the monolith in the top left, and a few years ago for Earth Day they blacked out the basically UN building, and it just reminds me of the monolith in 2001 Space Odyssey. So for the site that they deemed to be the new capital of the world, gets you, doesn't it? But look at the World United Nations, the UN for short. If you just reverse that, and you can see it on the screen, the name of Nu is paralleled with Nen in activity, in playing words in I raise them up from out the watery mass Nu, out of inactivity Nen. The name has also been compared to the Coptic noun abyss, or the deep. Now obviously there's Nun, Nut, but later in Egyptian times, Nun was basically a darker side to it. They changed it, they made it more of a chaos or a force of disorder. So I'm just thinking, UN, they want to be the new world order, and it's a new capital. It's built in New York, on which is the 11th state. The gate, the doorway, the building itself cost 65 million to make, and 11, and NU also means and derives from the word new. New World Order, the UN basically spelling new. NU can now be used for NEW. What's intriguing though is it also stems from Neo, which, as you know, means the one. The New World Order. Just thought that was intriguing not to include, and it just shows you a little brief history on the site and how it was bought by the Rockefellers, who then give it away to the United Nations for free. Right, flockers. I thought this was too much to ignore, and I want to include it in the video, and you'll see why. It's a connection between everyone involved and the site, and it just shows you the significance and what is gone on to formulate this plan. So this is the Secretary General talking at the funeral to a Yuri Lee Zeckendorf. Now if you remember, if that name sounds familiar, yes, it was a person who owned the land, who sold it to the Rockefellers, who then give it away for free. So this is the funeral. It's the Secretary General talking at the funeral. I am pleased to join you in remembering our friend Yuri Lee Zeckendorf. I did not know her especially well, but nonetheless I feel a special connection with her. She knew, of course, what it meant to be a Secretary General of the United Nations, not only because her father was one of my predecessors, he was one of the first ones, but also because she worked so closely with him during his tenure. I understand that she was also by his side in London through thick and thin during World War II, when he served as occupied Norway's foreign minister in exile. Yuri was not just a diplomat's daughter, she was the daughter of the United Nations too. And as you all know, Yuri was also closely linked to the land on which the UN complex was built. Were it not for the vision and generosity of William Zeckendorf, who sold it to the Rockefellers, and then it mentions and the Rockefellers, the UN might have not ended up on the site on which our headquarters was built. So paint the picture. Zeckendorf sold the land to the Rockefellers. He then gave it away to the UN, or basically the council, for free. Zeckendorf's son, I believe, married, yeah, you got it, the Secretary General's daughter, Yuri. So you can see, was it all planned? It's like if you know, we give you the land, my son will marry your daughter, kind of thing. It feels like a ritual and a sacrifice, and you know, here we go. So, and if it was not for Zeckendorf's involvement in the transaction, Yuri might not have met her husband to be, William Zeckendorf Jr. Which brings me to yet another connection. As far as I can tell, Yuri's father and I are the only Secretary Generals to serve during a period when the complex more closely resembled a construction site. until we moved out of the Secretariat building earlier this year. The halls of the 38th floor, 3 had 8, 11, coincidence, were decorated with the photographs of the UN being built. So that floor, they chose to show all the UN being built. Remember, it cost 65 million back in the day. Again, another 11. I believe 3,300 people worked there in the beginning. That's just a coincidence. So there was Trygve Lie wearing a hard hat, holding a shovel, helping to move the process along floor by floor. I'm sure that his spirit and gurus are with us during the current capital master plan renovation. Sounds ominous, that, doesn't it? Let me read that again. I'm sure his spirit and gurus are with us during the current capital. I thought it was Washington DC. Capital master plan renovation. So they deem, now you could say whether it's just the capital of United Nations, the headquarters, or from a conspiratorial point of view, are they talking like we was mentioning before? It is the capital for them. The current capital master plan. The spirits were certainly with me last year when I visited Norway on my way to the polar ice rim as part of my efforts to sound the alarm about climate change. It was very moving. We don't have to go all the way to there to silence that. You could do it from anywhere. They always visit these places, don't they, as we've seen. It was very moving to lay a wreath at Trygve Lie's grave. And it was moving today to be with you and paying tribute to his cherished member of the UN family. We thank Julie Zeckendorf, or Lie, for her contributions to the life of the United Nations. I offer my condolences, etc., to who've been touched by the loss. So you can see the significance. Zeckendorf sold, that's what the history books say, whether it is or not, sold it to the Rockefellers, who then gave it away for free, and for part in his process his son got married to the Secretary General's daughter. Can't get any more significance to me, and it does sound like how these parties do, the L-shites as I call them, the selling off, they are, you know, putting the daughter up for a ritual, a sacrifice to, you know, to oil the cogs, and that's just what it feels like to me. So you can see the significance. This lady died, and the Secretary General, who didn't even meet her, is talking at the funeral and showing you the connections of the site to the UN, to the Zeckendorfs, to the Rockefellers. I just thought it was intriguing and I had to show you. So what you're seeing on the screen, and I had to include this, you will see I talked about this a very long time ago in a few videos. Now, because we're talking about the Oculus, the world belongs to us, obviously it's associated with the owls, and I had to include it because this is in New York too. Now, who you're seeing on the left is a guy called Gordon Bennett Jr. and the name Gordon Bennett Jr. is used, I don't know if it's used over in the States, a long time ago it might have been, but over here sometimes we say Gordon Bennett when we are surprised or show contempt or rage or disgust or frustration. Now, some people say it was first used in New York from the firefighters who he supplied like a medal for bravery for. So again, similar etymology of the word. But what Gordon Bennett Jr., he was infatuated with owls. Now what you can see on the right is an actual owl from his father's business that he took over, was the Herald, very famous newspaper. And on top of was on top of the Herald building was loads of these owls, and the eyes glowed, and you also had Minerva, obviously, and her associate symbol was the owl. So Gordon Bennett has always been infatuated with owls. Now what you're seeing in the middle would have been Gordon Bennett's mausoleum. Now I'll read it out for you now because it is really fine print. So this is what it says. So it says, unfinished tomb of James Gordon Bennett. The owl would have been 200 feet high and was to have been his mausoleum. Stanford White's death ended work on it. Stanford Death was the architect. Now I'll put this into context. The Statue of Liberty is 300 feet. The statue itself, take away the base, is 150. So you can see the magnificence. This would have been a 200-foot owl in New York. So here we go. So in the studio of Andrew O'Connor, sculpture at Paxton, Mass, there is a pencil drawing of a great owl mounted upon a high pedestal, and you can just see the image on the screen. And the simple model, the owl itself, is in clay. The two are all the work which, at the time of Stanford White's death, Mr. O'Connor had just done toward a design for the tomb of James Gordon Bennett. Mr. Bennett had commissioned Stanford White to design his tomb and had given his specific directions. Mr. White had also called in Mr. O'Connor, who was working with him at the time, to make the model for the owl, and the work it's scratched out but well underway, so I'm assuming it just started. But when in June 1906 Stanford White was killed, I believe he was killed and murdered on top of Madison Square Gardens or something like that, Mr. Bennett left the whole project of the owl tomb drop. The enormous owl was not only James Gordon Bennett's monument, but literally his tomb. It was to stand on the Bennett land in Washington Heights, a gigantic statue 200 feet high, of which about 75 feet was to be the height of the pedestal. As Mr. Bennett explained his idea to Mr. White, the owl was to be hollow and was to contain his sarcophagus. 2 steel chains were to be hung from the top of the owl's head, and midway in the monument, Mr. Bennett's coffin was to be suspended. Wow, so you can picture the 2 huge chains in it being suspended by, the sarcophagus suspended by 2 huge chains. Wow. So the 2 steel chains of that. Through the interior of the tomb, a circular staircase was to ascend from the bottom of the pedestal around the coffin, and the great iron chains up to the eyes of the owl, which were to be windows looking out of New York City. The monument was to be open to the public. The material was to be glazed granite. The high ground on which it was to stand would have formed a suitable vantage point. It was only a short time before Mr. White's death that Mr. Bennett gave the commission. Like Sarah Bernhardt in Pierre de Chase, Mr. Bennett's tomb was to be finished and set up at once to be a monument to him and a resting feature the city scene while he was still living. So there you go, guys. Mr. Gordon Bennett wanted a 200-foot owl to be his tomb. Now, yes, where do you think Mr. Bennett was a member of? And I'll get into that next. So before I go on with the next bit, I just wanted to include this because this is one of the so-called famous owls. It appears on the $1 bill, and as you can see, it is highlighted there. If you go in a little bit closely, there it is. Now, a lot of people, or some people, believe it's actually a spider. So a spider or an owl. What do you guys think? I've not heard the spider before, but it does make sense considering that it does look like a web, being weaved in its back. But what I was getting at is in regard to a famous owl, and everyone has heard of the Bohemian Grove. And as you know, they have one of the most famous statues of an owl, and obviously when you go to the place it talks about, and you'll see this, it's an owl, Bohemian Grove, but it says, "Come not here, weaving spiders." And that gets you back to thinking of that $1 bill. Is it an owl? Is it a weaving spider? But thus is it just still showing you the Bohemian Grove, the influence of this society for all to see. Now, I didn't know this. Bohemian Grove also has a San Francisco chapter, another club where if you don't want to go to the retreat, you can go to the building, and this is outside again, weaving spiders, come not here. So it's intriguing, isn't it, that Zeckendorf, the guy who originally owned the land, the Rockefellers, Gordon Bennett Jr., who I've just mentioned, all infatuated with owls, were all members of, yes, you got it, the Bohemian Grove. So you can see how influential these people are. Gordon Bennett was very influential. He was a known party boy. Also, I believe he had a duel with, he was dating, I might get this wrong because they often do, but I believe he was dating Winston Churchill's mother back in the day. Offended her by peeing or taking a dump in a fireplace while there was a great party on. The brother was disgusted, and he got beat down with a whip, and he also had a duel which both of them survived. So you can see the action these people have, and they're all connected. They're all connected to the Owls. They're all connected to secret clubs, the Bohemian Grove. And I just thought, you know what, I had to include this because we're talking about the Oculus, the world belongs to us. And obviously when you think of the owl or owls, you have to think about Bohemian Grove. You can't look past it. So there is a connection between the people I've mentioned in the video so far. And what's intriguing, and later on in life, J.D. Rockefeller used to recite this little rhyme. A wise old owl lived in an oak. The more he saw, the less he spoke. The less he spoke, the more he heard. Why aren't we all like that old bird? So again, you can see the significance. These people seem to have a fascination with the owl. I've showed Gordon Bennett Jr. having one, and also John D. Rockefeller again recited his poem, which is one of his favourites. So again, emphasis on the owl, the Oculus, and the world domination. The world belongs to us. So I'm nearly done, and I just thought, you know what guys, I'll show you a few more owls around New York. I don't want to go crazy on it. I'm just going to show you 3-4 images. They're at schools, which you would think so, but mean linked to wisdom owls, but they're on synagogues, and they're on the Woolworths building. They're everywhere. So I just wanted to show you how New York has an owl fascination. And if you want to look about it, there's a lot more buildings around the world, but just look at Washington DC. It's set up like an owl. So it's in your face, it's there. It's just like the building, the Frost building, I believe it's called in Texas, looks like an owl. So it's crazy. There's loads around the world, and I didn't want to go, hey, have a look at this all around the world, maybe in a future video. So I want to finish off this last bit now, a couple of things maybe. And I was thinking, why New York? And we've been through it, you know, Rockefeller, etc. got the land given for free, but I wanted to look in the name New York. So I looked at New York, and straight away 3 letters popped out, NWO, and New World Order. New York, obviously the UN backwards is new, and I showed you that already. But what else was left? So I did New York, NWO, so I was left with EYRK. Now a few letters, you know, shouted out to me, key, you know, because of Janos, and obviously New York is the 11th state. And I thought, you know what else? KYR means cow, cattle, and that was, whoa, that was intriguing. And there's an abbreviation, KYR, and that means 1,000 years or millennium. I'm like, wow, that is mind-blowing. Then I thought, you know what, I want to find something with the 4 letters that's left, KYRE. And on screen you can see, it just blew me away. It means Lord. And it also means supremacy, authority, to swell, to spread out, to be strong. So we're talking about New York, meaning New World Order, or the Lord of the New World Order, to be strong, to support supremacy, authority. Wow. Tell me that is not mind-blowing, because it is to me. New York is the Lord's New World Order, linked with the owl, the Oculus, everything about the vision to see. How wow is that? So that blew me away. So I want to finish off with this bit now, actual finish off this time before my thoughts. So I'm going to finish off with this. Here's the logo, the United Nations. Does look like an eye, doesn't it? But if you remember the symbol I've showed you a few times in previous videos, the 2 St. John's, the Masonic symbol, have a look at it. I can see it personally representing that also. I mean, I might just be blind, but I do see that logo in that hidden. So is that just a coincidence, a twist of fate, or is it intentionally done to represent the two 11s, the pillars, the two St. Johns? I mean, you've also got, remember, the intergalactic law enforcement, which is this, and as you know, they're the Green Lanterns. That fits too. It's all coinciding with the same symbol, and as you know, it does look like an eye if you put it on the side, you know, the eyelids. But what about the other organisation that is in regard to the health, the World Health Organization? Same logo, but with the rod on. And what do you abbreviate the World Health Organization to? The WHO. Who? Owls make hoots, owls make who's. Who? That's a bad one, but you get me gist. That. There we go. Another in your face owls. And it's the Oculus. It means the world belongs to us. It's just mind-blowing. So I'm going to come to a halt there, and I just wanted to try something new with this video and a different feel to it. I didn't want to do what other people have done, and I believe I've achieved that, just to show you something different about the UN, and maybe I can bring this type of video to other corporations or anything like that, you know what I mean? So hopefully you've enjoyed it. Now my thoughts.
Yeah, they call me the black sheep. You know they call me the black sheep.
Hello and welcome to What the Flock TV. As usual, guys, thank you for the love, thank you for the support, thank you for like, sharing and subscribing, and for watching all videos. I have a lot on in the video section. Please, there's playlists, there's loads of videos that you can get around to actually watching, so it's truly appreciated. Anyone who has bought me a coffee or wants to buy me a coffee, the link is in the description. Your support is greatly appreciated, especially in this time of need type of thing. It really does help me and the channel, so thank you. So let's get on to the video. What do you think? It's something different, but I wanted to try something a little bit different but with my same feel, and I believe I've achieved that. The original video that I made was called Know Your Enemy, and it was a long time ago. It was on the Black Sheep Researcher on Odyssey if you want to check it out. And there was a video in that, I think it was made by Kingdom in Context, and I included it in the original video, and I just reached out again to say, listen, I'm going to include it, but obviously my name's changed because I've got a new channel. And it's basically where he mirrored the painting in the quiet room, or the room of quiet, and it showed you to become an owl. And I thought, you know what, I've just done the video talking about the Oculus, the eye, owls, Baphomet, all that things, didn't I? And I thought, how did I forget that? Because I could have included it in that video. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to make a little short video to show that. Bang, 30 odd minutes goes in and we've made something a little different, and I've done a little digging, revealed a little bit of the history, and I've really enjoyed making this video, and hopefully you guys can see that and appreciate something different, a little different feel, not over the depth, not too dark, just a little bit of information and a little bit of What the Flock TV style. So seeing that again, that video of mirroring the video, mirroring the painting in the room of quiet, the meditation room that resembled an owl, and then you have obviously the altar in front. People will automatically go Saturn, Cupid, Saturn. Well, if you've watched my other videos, you'll notice that Saturn and most of all the gods stem from Janos. Janos is the archetype, hence he's god of arches and the beginnings, and so much more. So if you want to check out Janos, please check out the playlist. They're all in there, so you will really enjoy them. So that really intrigued me, and when I was looking into the building, the UN building, I noticed the sculpture outside, and I went, no way, that is another mirror or reflection, could turn into an owl. That blew me away, and I thought, you know what, this short video now is going a little bit longer because I'm just finding a few intriguing, interesting things. See what you guys think. It's a slam dunk owl for me. If you think about it, they have a half an owl on the ground floor in the room of quiet. Room of quiet, owls fly silently, and when you fly silently, obviously the owls for the prey. I was thinking, you know what? There was one half and one half. You could have merged them into two, but I just did the same because that one was mirrored and it revealed the owl, and outside reveals the owl also. But it's strange, they're on the same level facing each other. One's inside, one's outside. That blew me away. So instead of just progressing through the video, I want to reverse and go to the end because, and then I'll touch on the other things. Why did he choose the UN? Because it got free land, obviously, but when I looked into the name New York, obviously it's called New Amsterdam. I found in an old video that I covered New York, they did a fake map in the 17th century and it was called Noel, N-O-W-E-L, York, and that's like, oh no, Noel Amsterdam, because obviously it's called New Amsterdam. And I thought, wow, it's got an owl and it's got the NWO in, but I didn't know whether that was just going slightly off, showing you more, you know, the maps, because I already did that in that old video. Maybe I should have done it, but you guys can check if you don't believe me. And that was a fake map done by the Portuguese or French something, but it's basically they did a map of Lisbon and said it was New York and just put Noel Amsterdam on the top. It was a forgery, obviously, which was rather funny. So looking at the word New York, you see NWO straight away, New World Order. I'm like, wow, so what was left? EYRK. I'm like, I can see key straight away. Key, New World Order, key. It's got, you know, we're already talking about New York being the 11th state. The door is that the key to the door. So I thought, wow, that's interesting, but it's only 3 letters. And I was looking down, another KYR meant cow, cattle, and an abbreviation of KYR was 1,000 years or millennium. Wow. And the millennium reminded me of the TV series Millennium, if you remember, made by X-Files. They only did a couple of series. I've not watched it in a long time. I've got it on box set, that old, and they talk about how the owl in that was a symbol of Christ. A lot of people believe it's a symbol for the devil also, which is intriguing. So that was blowed my way. 1,000 years, millennium. Wow. So that's in New York. But then I talked to myself in a sense, well, it's 4 letters it's missing. Let's not have 3. Let's have the full. So KYRE, and amongst many things, it meant Lord. Some of it's in a song. Kyrie, means Lord have mercy, but it means Lord, and also means, you know, mean power. You know, and all the things they included in the video, and that was wow. So New World Order, Lord, the Lord's New World Order. They want it as the capital. They've named it the capital. And so many doorways, the 11's in it. It just makes me tingle. And yes, a lot of it can be down to interpretation and opinion, but you know, I mean, I'm making content for myself to keep my mind occupied, and that just blew me away. Because I believe if anyone else came with that, it would be, whoa, New World Order means, New York means New World Order, the Lord's New World Order. Wow. I do it, crickets. But it is what it is, and I'm proud of myself. Life's been hard this last week too. I'm thinking a lot of things, and I do need the support of people around me. I'm thinking of not even, I know I've promised a few people to do some lives. I'm going to do that, and then I might just stick to myself, keep my head down, and maybe not even premiere it anymore. You know, life's really hard, and I'm keeping on fighting, but it's taking its toll, I won't lie. And you know, I say how things are. So you know, please guys, just keep me in your thoughts, and you know, we keep on fighting whether it's just putting a video up, premiering. I may do the odd live when I can, and those people who have promised will try and sort something out for that, and then I might just stay to myself. I've tried to put myself out there, and for some reason my face doesn't fit. So you know, we'll move on upwards and onwards. So we have that just absolutely, I'm glad I revisited that, because that just blew me away straight away. And then you're looking at the logo and the wreaths. Obviously you can connect that to Corona, the crown, but to me it did resemble the two St. John's, that symbol that I've been talking about in the last few videos. Well, I've talked about it for a few years, but that could fit, and it does look like an eye. So you can't look past that. So it intrigued me. So we're going back now to the Room of Quiet. I mean, the painting was done by Bo Bescow, and in charge at the time was Dan Hammarskjöld, and he personally planned, supervised everything. And you're talking about a room there of quiet, a meditation room, and it's like, why is it eerie? It feels like it's draining energy from you. You have the one light on the spotlight, the white light, and just very, very, very creepy. I mean, I didn't even talk about, obviously, the United Nations General Assembly, known as UNGA, and when I was reversing that, I got Agnew, and that's similar to a lot of things in regard to two-faced Hindu. I think a Hindu or a Buddhist, you know, and means fire. So there's a lot of things that I didn't really put in, but you know, you only have to get so much information in, and that's just what I tried. I mean, the room 9 feet by 6 feet 6. Obviously, you can turn the 9, you get 666. You get the people who are, like I said, I can't officially say this is facts, but it's well known. People have made videos on it, that the Lucis company, formerly known as Lucifer Company, who were at 666 but changed their address. Come on, guys, that's just in your face. And that was the connection that I was talking about. Remember the Lucifer video? People are saying it's this, the devil, etc. Could it be something else? And it's all tied with the eyes. Hence why the Oculus and the world belongs to us, and the owl are all connected. That just that just got me. So when you're putting all these things together, you can see it's a wow. And then that, obviously, that poem talking about the assembly and the, you know, the United Nations with Hillel Ben Shara, which was where the translation got changed to Lucifer. That was intriguing because it talks about, I might have to get that on my phone because I can't memorize that. You just forget so much, don't you? Even when you write it on your notes, you're like, damn, I don't remember that. Fully, and I've just got to go in my notes. Dead professional me. I should have had it ready. But, you know, I wouldn't be Paul What the Flock TV if I'm not professional. So it was J.W. McKay, and it says, how you have fallen from the heavens, Hillel Ben Shara. You have been cut down to the ground, a weakling above the nations. So it's saying, you could perceive that as, I mean, wow, he's been cut down, but he's still above the nations. United Nations. It was you who said in your heart, I shall ascend the heavens above the sides of hell. I should, and that reminded me as well, because they have a stolen asset recovery assistance program known as STAR to get money, and that is in connection with the World Bank. So, you know, there's a few connections there. I shall rise high my throne. Look at the assembly. Has an altar at the bottom, black one, and then it has a throne where the three sit. And I shall sit on the mount of the assembly. It's the assembly room. And I should sit on it. And I'm like, wow, that was just too much. I mean, there's a lot of videos out there showing the rest of the paintings and stuff in the building, but I didn't want to go down that route. If you want to see some of the paintings I did include it in my original one, but I just wanted to keep it to the Oculus and not other things, you know what I mean? And that's what I believe I've done. So I can revisit and do different videos and different things. I just wanted to try something different. So that got me, those were nice connections, and it just blows me away how open things are. And I know people will say, oh well, we don't see it, it's hidden in plain sight. And that's what I always try and get at. We're hiding things in plain sight all the time. And you had the site of the United Nations headquarters, and it was a slaughterhouse. And I know a lot of people who's watching and not watching talk about ley lines and how slaughterhouses are built on ley lines. So if it was built on ley lines, I mean, I couldn't find any. I'm not saying they're not there, because a lot changes. You'll get some it was saying it's there and some it's not saying, and I try not put too much of that stuff in until I can know for sure there is a ley line there. People will probably tell me. I bet there is, because obviously the abattoirs, the slaughterhouses are built there. So United Nations is built on those. And you're like, wow, the energy from that. And then the building, it looked like the 2001 Space Odyssey monolith. And Zeckendorf, whose family is still there today, running real estate companies, and he sold it to the Rockefellers, the JD, and obviously I think he was part of it, Nelson, who I didn't know became the vice president. That's just like, I've never heard that before. So he sold it for 8.5 million. He then gave it away for free. That's good business. Wonder why. So what I know, who knows what he got for handing that over. But you can see my point. Zeckendorf sold it to them, then they give it away for free. Zeckendorf, then his son ends up marrying the first UN secretary, Guri Lee, her name was. How, like, it's like organised, marriage. Like, you know what, you give me that, you can have my daughter's hand. They're all into bread. They're all in the clubs. And it seems like a sacrifice in a sense, you know what I mean? You've done that so you can have my daughter. And she was the daughter of the UN. So I thought that was powerful in itself. And it cost 65 million at the time to build Hidden 11. Noting that it's just pure coincidence, guys. Then 3,300 workers started there. 33, which is 3 11s. And these things just join and mold together. And you're talking about a site was given for free that could possibly be built on ley lines because of the abattoir slaughterhouse, ironic that is, of an organisation called the United Nations, UN for short. I mean, you think about where the UN are in the world. They're on the Mount Hermon, where the site of supposedly fallen angels are. They have a base up there. So we're talking about the UN, and then if you mirror it, it's new, and that's linked to obviously nuts and noon, chaos, wow, forces of disorder. Also is to neo, so the one. We have NU being, the root of new, meaning NEW, new. You have the New World Order, New York. And you're talking about things like that, and it's just, wow. I mean, sometimes I do think it's like pareidolia and we've seen things that are not there, but these are just, like I said, my videos are not to be taken as fact, not to be taken as anything but opinion on what I find. People sometimes struggle to think, when I'm researching, most of this was done when I was researching and making the video. I have a bare set knowledge of what I want to go in here, and I just see if I can find anything that's, content video worthy, and this is what I found, and when I find it, I'll show it. So he had the original site, it was going to be buildings, offices, hotels, and he wanted to call it X City, whether that's just, you know, the pre-name and it would have been known as something else, who knows. But come on, the X is getting about. You know what I mean? And some things I can't say for obvious reasons, but hey, come on, you can't look past that. And then you have the Rockefellers and Zeckendorf interloped with it, and it got me to remember the old video, because the old video that I made contained the bit on Gordon Bennett, which he say in disgust or shock or disbelief. Gordon Bennett, and it stems from him. He was philanthropist, but also, you know, a party boy, playboy type of thing. And from what I've heard, that he went out with Winston Churchill's mother, who was a socialite, you know, one of the socialites in New York, and did a wee or dump in one of the fires at the party, got whipped, had a duel, all those things that you do on an ordinary day. And he was fascinated with owls. He wanted his mausoleum to be a 200-foot owl, to be situated in, you know, was it Thingy Heights, Washington Heights. And I'm like, wow. So he wanted the stairs around it, like they do, the masons like having the stairs round. 200 feet owl, hollowed out, and he wanted people to be able to go in it so they could have a good view. He had owls on his Herald building for the paper, in the Herald Plaza, or all the courtyard. There's loads of owls, and the eyes light up. The intriguing nature of the owls. And, you know, you can think about the size. The Statue of Liberty is 300 feet. The statue itself is 150 feet. So you're talking a humongous owl would have been built if it wasn't for the J. White, the architect, being killed. It's like a film, isn't it? You can't make this shit up. So then obviously when you think of owls, you think of the dollar bill. Could it be an owl, or what people talk about as well as being a spider? And you like Bohemian Grove, the Illuminati, the Bavarian Illuminati have owl symbols, and obviously it means wisdom amongst many other things. It is a symbol used by the occult because it can see in the dark. It can fly silently, so you can see how, as I mentioned in another video, there's good meanings and theories on an owl, and then bad theories. You know what I mean? So it goes both ways. I've also seen it was a symbol for Christ, symbol for Lucifer. There's so many things on it for Christianity, and I'm like, wow. I mean, where did you go? So you had this guy associated with owls being a member of Bohemian Grove, where Zeckendorf was a member, and obviously the Rockefellers. Is this why they're intrigued by the owl, a symbol that is used by Bohemian Grove? And I didn't even know there was two. I knew of the retreat in the forest with the woods, but I didn't know they had a separate building in the city as a clubhouse type of thing. So we learned something new all the time. We knew about all this connection between each other, the Bohemian Grove, the United Nations, the actual floor that they had, all the painting, all the architecture of the UN being on, you know, the 11th floor, the 803. You know, you can see the 11s everywhere, and I'm like, you can't make this shit up, as I say. I mean, just look at the Bohemian Grove. It's 2,700 acres, but in hectares it's 1,100. You know, and they have video that, you know, they have an owl thing in it, you know, camp and all that thing. So I didn't want to go too much into it. I mean, what if I remember, you even had Rockefeller, who used to have a verse that he used to say later on in life, and it's like, wow, you just I mean, a wise old owl lived in an oak. The more he saw, the less he spoke. The less he spoke, the more he heard. Why aren't we all like the wise old bird? And that's what he was saying. So you can just see the connection, seeing where I'm going with this video. I wanted to include something different. And when I started off showing you the quick short video of the painting, then I found that in the courtyard looking like an owl. I'm thinking, wow, so New York's got a lot of owls, so is the world. And I didn't want to then go, oh, let's go all around the world. Maybe I'm stopping myself from doing future videos in it, so that could be coming soon eventually. I just go with the flow, guys, and I'm just appreciative for the support. It does really, you know, mean a lot to me, and I'm humbled, and I get emotional. I'm an emotional person. You never guess. So I learned a lot from this video. I didn't know the United Nations was a campus, the Bronx campus. I didn't know that they might have not been in New York. They were looking for alternate sites, Boston, Philadelphia, so on. Or was that just part of the script? Then he gets all the land, he sells it, then they give it away for free, and they're all connected like that. So it was a good, interesting video, this, showing you something that I didn't know. You know, overall I knew a lot of things, but when you put it together, it's just intriguing. I'm still blown away by that New York. I really am. Do you know what I mean? That is crazy that New York spells that. I mean, look at my notes. I write like so I've got code words everywhere. It's like, how do I keep it in mind? So New York, New World Order, the Lord's New World Order. You know, it's just wow, guys. And then looking like an owl, the eye looking like a symbol, the United Nations, and how they talk about them being organs and parts of the body, the different sections of it. And then you have the World Health Organization, abbreviated means WHO. Come on. Apart from Doctor Who, you have the WHO, a sound that owls make. In your face. As always. But hey, we're here to give a different perspective and maybe do it with a smile. And I just thank you guys for watching today. I will see you in the comments. I think I will premiere this one, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. So like I always say, stay safe, never let the bar stools grind you down. Even like me in a minute, you're at rock bottom with things in your life, and I just appreciate you guys having me back. So stay safe, always wear a smile, and I'll see you in the chat. Remember to like, share and subscribe. Bye guys.